Thank you. Thank you. So, Prodyat Kapata Kutinati, a full-born hypocrisy and duplicity. He says, Sadatvam Nitaram Snatva. Instead, you should always bathe Sudambodhav in the nectarian ocean. What is that nectarian ocean? Gandharva Giridhari Pada Prema Vilasat, of love emanating from the lotus feet of Sri Gandharvika Giridhari. Sukaya, thereby delighting Tvam Api Mamcha, thereby delighting yourself and me also, by taking bath in the nectarian ocean of love emanating from the lotus feet of Shri Gandharvika Giridhari, like that. So, of course, we did see elaborately Srila the commentary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur on this. So, where he talks about this verse gives advice to those practitioners who may be able to subdue the 6 enemies. It's not that only after one subdues the 6 enemies, one will develop deceit and hypocrisy. It is not like that. Deceit and hypocrisy can be there right from the beginning, but one may be able to notice it only when one has overcome to some extent the gross obstacles in the form of delusion and pride. So otherwise it is not that easy. So then I will not go through Bhajan Darpan commentary. We have already discussed, the Swanishta, Parinishtita, Nirapeksha Bhaktas, the 3 types of devotees, how hypocrisy and deceit can crop up in their life, in what forms, the 6 types of ways in which in the life of a Swanishta Sadhaka, this hypocrisy can manifest. And further, I think 2 ways in which in a Parinishtita Sadhaka, the hypocrisy can manifest. Then 8 ways in which hypocrisy can manifest in the life of a Nirapeksha Sadhaka. Actually, we discussed a Nirapeksha Bhakta does not have any hypocrisy or duplicity. This is talking about those people who are self-deceivers, those who think they are qualified to accept the state of a Nirapeksha Bhakta, but they are not really qualified for that. Okay, so in this way, of course, I don't want to, and then we saw various meanings of what does it mean to take bath in the nectar of love of Radha and Krishna's lotus feet, right? So it means hearing and discussing their glorification, presenting to them our own fallen state, and the third is praying for mercy. So these are the 3 means of taking bath in the nectar that is emanating from the lotus feet. And then we saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Manasiksha Bhasha. And last week we started discussing from Srila Jayadvaita Swami's commentary. So it looks like Radha Pramod Prabhu has got his signal back. So let's try this one more time. Prabhuji, I am making you the co-host. So please go ahead and try to share your screen. We will see how it works.
Actually, I'm sorry, we lost. There was no power here. I was trying with hotspot, so it didn't work. Now power came. So
okay, yes, bro, no problem.
So this is a commentary from Jayadvaita Swami. He actually recapped everything, whatever it was like further explanation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it is also doing a recap of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he says the same thing. Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudva, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidyane Vairanam. The biggest enemy of the conditioned soul is lust. But Raghunath Goswami says that even if you are done with that, there is still another problem to do. So here Jayadvaita Maharaj explains, deeply embedded within the human heart are 4 defects, and one of them is the propensity to cheat. And then he says how Bhagavatam is kicking out Kaitava Dharma, all cheating religions. And Sridhar Swami also says Kaita Dharma means Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and anything other than pure devotion. So here this cheating propensity is there. It is always there in a human being. So this manifests in different ways for us, deceit and hypocrisy. And that is compared with bathing in the donkey urine of full-blown hypocrisy and duplicity. Now, Maharaj is telling, one may ask why donkey urine? Cow urine is purifying. Some people clean their kitchens also with it. It is antiseptic. And then Maharaj says, Srila Prabhupada said that donkey, the ass, is the symbol of stupidity, as it is expression of work like an ass. So even in America also they consider ass is very the scolding is like them. So now types of deceit in that according to the three category of spiritual practitioners: Swanishtita, Parinishta, and Nirapeksha. So Maharaj did not go very detailed, but he gave very practical applications of it within ISKCON scenario. Only endeavor to please Bhagavan Lord Hari. So this we discussed previously also, and all these types are benefited only when they become thoroughly honest, give up pretense, hypocrisy, and deceit. Otherwise, they are surely vanquished. And then he says, for a renunciate, he may want to train ladies in. So here now he starts giving very practical scenarios in ISKCON and in general also, but for us it is more. May train ladies in deity worship so that he can have association of their association. Staying with materialistic people with the expectation of receiving wealth and being inwardly anxious and worried about collecting more wealth while making a pretense of performing devotional service or chanting. And then he quotes this Sukadeva Goswami says, aren't there trees? So renunciate should apply this. Aren't there trees giving fruits? Aren't there rivers giving water? Why sannyasi should go to the homes of materialistic? Now, when it comes to householders, indulge in sense enjoyment on the pretext of sadhana bhakti. A person may offer opulent food for the pleasure of Lord, thinking of eating in later, and serving rich, influential, materialistic instead of serving simple, nirapeksha servants of Krishna. And here it is applicable for both grahasthas and sannyasis. Initiated Vaishnavas or professional Vaishnavas go around from one rich man's house to another, collecting donations mainly to support their family. So here, rich materialistic flatters saying, "Oh Maharaj," and until the preacher starts to believe that he is also Maharaj. So then he just categorized. He just made some points. Of course, this presentation was a little tough because everything I felt we should hear one more time. This is an institution. If institution becomes solely interested in courting the wealth and influence, so when we see the ordinary guys who does not have any money, we go to the next man, neglecting the sincere candidate for devotional service because we are more interested. And this is very important. Enthusiasm for meaningless temporary gains, even at the cost of envying and harming others. And enthusiasm about a more or less mundane project of no greater importance. So this is also deceit. And there is self-indulgence. Self-indulgence is one indulgence one's mundane propensities under the banner of devotional service, like becoming a rock star for Krishna's sake. And Parinishita is making an external show, strictly following rules and prohibitions, while inwardly being attached to material subjects unrelated to Krishna. And this is first is self-indulgence. There is legit legalism. Legalism is punctilious. I mean, becoming more very particular about, very attentive to following the rules and regulations. Pakka devotee, but heart is all junk. Inwardly allow all sorts of anarthas to grow. You make sure that your circumstances circumambulate that tulsi plant exactly 4 times, chant such and such verse exactly the right meter, bow facing the right direction, all details you can possibly think, but without the real connection and purification of heart. So it is legally, it is there, everything is legally on paper, right? But it is heart is full of junk. That's what Maharaj says. And then he says there is self-deceit also. Self-deceit, if you think rules are most important thing, we are fooling ourselves. Rupa Goswami calls the internal externals are not mutually exclusive. When the rules and regulations becomes the point, or when we want to make a show of rules and regulations, that means what is internal external both should match. So if others think the rules are most important thing, we may deceive them by making a show of following the rules, but without having any substance. So this is self deceit. And then another thing Mara says is deceitful by preferring the association of people. So some sadhakas are who are materially impressive prefer the association of non-devotees, like intellectually sophisticated company or high society mode of goodness people. So they may be interested in such type of association. That is also duplicity. Such as sadhaka prefers association of that of genius devotees, recognize
Genuine.
genuinely recognizing the various type of deceit helps us guard against materially motivated religion and contaminated consciousness. So why we have to know all these things? This is the main reason, so that we will guard ourselves against all these things. So that's why we need to know what type of deceit there possibly for us. So now then it comes even more practical things, devotion or profession. There are many statements in our literature advising against meeting one's family, expressing
Expenses.
expenses by speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, or by becoming a professional preacher or pujari. So impediments to spiritual progress may come because we maintain our household life by professional kirtan. So this is what is the problem if we go with professionally using Srimad Bhagavatam and preaching and other things. So some may be a car mechanic, a teacher, an accountant, somebody as a preacher. So it's also like a treated as profession. Then there is no progress in bhakti. So that is the danger. It becomes a business or profession. Since our interest lies in building up our bank account, we are interested in preaching to the wealthy or preaching where people give us good money. So, and we collect money not for a preaching project to distribute books or to spread Krishna consciousness, to pay the rent and save money for kids education and all. So actually almost everything I had to put in the slide. So a devotee may sometimes accept some modest contribution maintenance, but when our program is meant only for maintaining our family by professional Vaishnava service, then that is not proper. So this is the main instruction Maharaj want to explain. And then Maharaj gives examples of Vrindavan temple where Prabhupada said the pujaris, they kept the temples open to collect some money and don't really care about the deity. So basically deity worship was a family business. Then Maharaj explains devotional service, a means of earning your livelihood. So some people are willing to serve, but everything they do has a price. So we then have to ask, is a devotional service or a job? Because you have to ask for money. And then Maharaj gives a suggestion, better to earn your livelihood by honest means and do service. You don't have to ask, okay, what's my compensation package? No, you can say my family expenses are meant and this is what I do for service. So Maharaj says family responsibility don't take all our time. So the balance of our time we can use for Krishna's service. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want us, and he came to teach us to do devotional service, not to maintain devotional service. And even Prabhupada's teachings also, Maharaj says the same thing. So we won't waste actually time in watching TV and Prajalpa, then all the time we can invest in serving Krishna. Now, then there is another practical scenario of Prabhupada book distribution. Prabhupada said it's a good business. So full-time book distributions can keep aside some quota for personal and family maintenance. So we can also use uh, occupations for serving, like if somebody knows accounts, they can do temple accounts, a lawyer can do documents, a cook can cook for the deities, but not with the mentality of how much they will pay me, how much will I collect if I go to this engagement, how many hours do they want me to serve, can I make the same amount by less, maybe I can get few more dollars per hour. So this type of mentality is not correct. So none of that comes into consideration when you cover your own family expenses separately. So better to work outside and do service to Krishna. That is what Maharaj prefers. Taking payment for service or maintaining your family can also create unhappy relationship. This is another point Maras makes, where he says that brahmacharis may collect and then they have to pay for the salaries of grihasthas, or the congregation householders are working hard and making money for the temple, and it is going for the maintenance of the family. So whether we really want such scenario in the temples or we want volunteers. So this is what Mara's question in the end. So, thank you.
Very bold. Wonderful, bro. You, as you rightly said, you have practically covered every single line of the PowerPoint. Yeah, I don't have to really do any recap now. Thank you very much. So I think we will then start our discussion. So this was a beautiful explanation by Srila Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, where you know, he speaks about the various kinds of deceit, devotion or profession. This was the last theme that we discussed. It is not, it is, one may say, Prabhuji, isn't it better to speak Bhagavatam and make a living than to work in a software company? This is a natural question. Instead of, I am not working in a software company or any of the so-called Ugra Karma, this thing. Instead, I am going house to house and singing Krishna Kirtan and earning whatever little money that I can earn. So what is wrong? Or I am taking care of temple and whatever money comes, I am utilizing some for Krishna and some for myself. What is wrong? So the problem is that our mentality gets contaminated, because every person we see, we will start seeing how much he can give. So if you remember, initially Srila Raghunath Das Goswami used to maintain, when he ran away from home and came to Puri, he used to initially maintain himself, and his father used to send money. So he used to cook feast for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu using that money. Then later he thought, how can I accept money from Vishayi? Then he started begging food by standing outside the Simhadwar, where wealthy people used to come and give Jagannath Mahaprasad to the beggars. So he used to stand with the beggars and actually beg food. But then he thought, how can I do this? Because every person, naturally, I will start sizing up these people. Who can give me money? Who cannot give me money? And literally, even though it is, the activity may be connected to Krishna consciousness, it may be Kirtan or speaking Bhagavatam, constantly our eyes and our consciousness will be searching for that person who can pay me more. And if someone does not pay, then we will really, either we will not give our service, or we will give something in a very, very compromised way. This is literally business, and this consciousness can kill people actually. This can kill our Krishna consciousness. So ideally, see, this we can do earning for ourselves also, or this we can do even as the representative of an institution also. One may say that I am not collecting money for myself, I am collecting money for institution. So you may not directly use the money, we may not directly use the money for ourselves, but what will happen is, how much money you collect, to that extent you are able to show your own utility to the institution. So naturally, you will go and search for those people who can pay for your speaking Bhagavatam or your singing Kirtan. You will naturally keep looking for rich people rather than sincere people who can accept Krishna consciousness. So whether we are doing it for ourselves or in the name of collecting money for the institution, it is still better not to collect money in the name of kirtan or katha or deity worship. You cannot say that, you know, only if you pay so much money, then you can take darshan of the deities. You know, ideally, at least don't personally do it. Whatever is the institutional protocol, if someone else is calling the shots, if someone else is making these rules, we cannot do anything and we don't have to judge them. But the point is, from a personal point of view, we cannot do these core devotional activities which are you know, at least, you know, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. These cannot be done for money. So this is just a deception. We are deceiving ourselves by thinking that, isn't it better than doing a software job? Anyway, I have to make money. What is better? What is the better profession? Singing Krishna's Kirtan or working in a software company where I do not even know whether my energy and time that I am putting in, it may be used for all kinds of nefarious purposes at the end of the day. So why should I do it? You know, people may think like that, but this is another problem, because once we start doing Kirtan or speaking Bhagavatam for the purpose of making money, then our consciousness is gone. Then we will never be able to speak pure Krishna Katha at all. Actually, it becomes very difficult. Then we will be seeing, then we will be thinking, oh, I should ensure, let me see how many people have given money and how many people have joined the Zoom class. If there are more people, then maybe there are some people who have not paid the money but still have joined the Zoom class. So these kind of thought process will come. And how can one speak pure Krishna Katha actually, if one has this kind of a mentality? So it becomes very difficult. So therefore, as Maharaj rightly says, the danger is that it becomes a business. Even, you know, whether we notice it or not notice it, very subtly our consciousness changes, right? So therefore he says, so everybody has a way to maintain his family life, and it becomes exactly that, a business. And these are the things which are not supposed to happen with a business consciousness. Actually, they should be performed in Sevonmukha consciousness, in a mood of service and not in the mood of business. Better we maintain another profession in the mode of business and actually engage in these kind of activities, core devotional activities, purely as a service. Otherwise, it can really deceive us and it can really deceive others, because all said and done, through all these various activities of chanting the holy name and speaking Bhagavatam, one of the main things that we are aspiring to do is to transfer our consciousness through the via media of Kirtan or Katha to the hearers. But if this is going to be our consciousness, then that's exactly what we will be imparting to others. So, so therefore, this is what Maharaj has been discussing in this theme, and you know, so we will start thinking, and especially if we get paid from the temple only for doing such services, then naturally we will start thinking, how much they will pay me. Or if they are paying me only so much, then I will not extend myself. So then the whole purpose is lost. So Maharaj says, better you work outside, earn. If you work outside, they will pay you more than what the temple can afford. Then whatever extra time you have, you come and do service in the temple just for serving Krishna and not for making a business. That little service with good consciousness is much better than, 8 hours of, so-called service with a business motivation. Ultimately, Krishna is Bhavagrahi only. He is not our Kalagrahi. He does not accept our time or energy, but he accepts our consciousness. So it is still better to do that. And of course we did discuss that in an institution, if an institution has to run, naturally they will look for some devotees only to serve and perform certain services. But we should know that I take responsibility for my own personal maintenance of my own personal Krishna consciousness, that I will try to do at any cost. So I may not personally uh, uh, take up that service, but at the same time, whether uh, we can instead, we may not be able to give 8 hours a day, but we may be able to give 8 hours a week or 4 hours a week during the weekend or something like that, free of cost. So instead of giving 8 hours a day, taking some money, give 4 hours a week free of cost. And if 10-12 people think like that, it is not like a serious everyday commitment, it is weekly once commitment. Still, it can save so much money for the temple. At the same time, every single person who is doing it with the right kind of consciousness, in the mood of service actually. So ideally, the role of a leader is to fan this kind of voluntary spirit, as Prabhupada always keeps mentioning. So the manager or a leader means to fan this kind of voluntary spirit, because all said and done, ISKCON is a voluntary organization. So the most important role of a leader is to fan that voluntary spirit. So this is what we were discussing, and I was just going to discuss, as I mentioned, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about the same thing. I quoted last time. I have added that excerpt from Jaiva Dharma, and I'm going to read it. But before that, there are some quick questions. I think I will take the questions. I see one question in the chat box and I see one hand up. So I will take the questions after I read this excerpt from Jaiva Dharma. Okay, and then we will open the floor for some discussions. Okay, so this comes in the 28th chapter of Jaiva Dharma. So let's read. This is a conversation between Vijay Kumar and Gopal Guru Goswami, which is happening in Shri Radha Radhakant Mutt in Gambhira, Puri. So this is where the conversation is happening. Of course, this is a fictional conversation, but the philosophy is not fictional. The philosophy is proper Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, but the characters are fictional. Okay, so Vijaya is Vijay Kumar. He's a resident of Navadvip. So, and he has accepted Gopal Guru Goswami as his Guru. Just hold on for 1 second. Okay. So Vijay Kumar is asking his Guru, Gurudev, I am maintaining my family by reciting and lecturing on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is actually a treatise on rasa. Is it therefore an aparat to earn money by reading Srimad Bhagavatam to the ordinary public? I mean, whether it is ordinary public or any public for that matter, right? Is it okay to earn one's livelihood by performing any of these, core devotional limbs? So here Goswami says, indeed means yes, it is an offense. That's what he is indicating. The Bhagavatam is an excellent text and the crown jewel of all scriptures, being the mature nectarian fruit of the entire Vedic literature. Simply abide by its espousals, especially this particular verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. This indicates that Bhagavatam is meant to be discussed in the association of Rasikas for the purpose of relishing and not for the purpose of earning. Not for the purpose of earning. Okay. So he says, so this is a translation. O devotees who are thoughtful experts on the science of rasa, O devotees who are the relishers of rasa, kindly continue even after liberation to savor the sublime and nectarian fruit of the Vedas known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Gopal Guru Goswami says, according to this edict, edict means instruction. According to this instruction, the only eligible candidates for Rasa Tattva are the devotees who are Bhavuka, thoughtful and expert, and the Rasika, the relishers of Rasa. At least they must be devotees, right? So, no other person is permitted access. Therefore, my son, immediately abandon this method of earning your living. You are a thirsty searcher for rasa. Do not commit further aparad against rasa tattva. The Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad declare raso vaisaha. Rasa is personified in Krishna. The scriptures offer several options for earning one's livelihood. This is the most important thing, right? So he says the scriptures offer several methods, several options for earning one's livelihood. Follow their bona fide advice, but stop lecturing and reading the Bhagavatam for monetary gain. If you find a Rasika audience or interested audience, certainly read the Bhagavad Puran to them with great jubilation, but without expectation of taking a fee, a donation, etc. So that should not be our expectation. Oh, let me earn some money, whether it is for the self or for the institution. Because when we are doing it for the institution, we may not directly enjoy the money, but whatever money that you may earn, you earn for the institution, that may earn your respect. How much people respect you. So it may not directly be for money, but it may be indirectly be for respect, right? So therefore, Vijay Kumar says, Gurudev, you have saved me from the clutches of a terrible aparad, but how shall I counter the aparad I have already committed? Okay, if you have already done this, how to overcome this? How to rectify this aparad? Gopal Guru Goswami says, that aparad will not remain. Don't worry, once you realize it, don't do it. Entreat Rasa Tattva guilelessly. Guilelessly means without any duplicity. Without duplicity. And surely you will be exonerated from your aparad. Do not worry about it any longer. Vijay Kumar says, Gurudev, I now feel that I should rather maintain this body by some low profession than reveal the intricacies of Rasa Tattva to an undeserving person and wrongfully earn my living. So, yeah, this is not the right consciousness to actually, then people will start taking this very cheaply. And most importantly, when you start selling this, then what happens is people who are receiving it will have a sense of entitlement. I have paid for it. You speak this way. और प्रभु जी आपने बोला कि इतना इतना कवर करेंगे, उतना कवर ही नहीं किया आपने. So there is no sense of gratitude in receiving it. There is a sense of entitlement, and this will actually kill the Krishna consciousness of the receiver also. So when money is involved, then the person paying the money feels entitled, and when he is receiving Krishna consciousness in return, or a core devotional limb in return for money, then his consciousness, he will develop an entitlement consciousness, and that consciousness is very, very unfavorable for one who is receiving bhakti. So ideally, these limbs must be selflessly given. And if we are doing it purely for Krishna's pleasure, Krishna will bring in some money for the maintenance of the temple. He is Lakshmipati, he will do it. That faith should be there. But we cannot afford to charge or make our living for through these kind of core devotional limbs cannot be given for money. It is not good for the giver, because the business mood will creep in, and so he cannot purely give. And for the receiver, the sense of entitlement rather than a sense of gratitude is actually very unfavorable for his receiving. He does not actually receive anything in return. So he thinks that I can boss around, I can tell them what to. Prabhuji, can just sing this tune, na? You sing this tune, so that kind of a mode comes, I like this tune, you should be singing this tune. Why? I have paid you, right? Like that. So it is very unfortunate, actually. Okay, so there I see a few hands up, and then I also see some questions in the chat box. So we will open the floor for discussion now. We will discuss it for a while and then move to the next topic. Radha Pramod Prabhu, you wanted to share something?
Prabhuji, like now when it comes, okay, now somebody want to not make livelihood through in the name of
with all this core Krishna conscious activities. But when it comes to maintaining big temples, because Prabhupada wanted big temples, so we should be presenting in a professional way. Say like now I keep some volunteers for Govindas. The quality is different. But if I have a paid employees for Govindas, then we can have a better quality. So in that case, this core aspects who want to be practicing pure devotional limbs and very serious, for them they will not. Otherwise we have to take employees who are mixed devotees or something like that, because to run an institute we have to present, and to present we need to have profession. So if we have voluntary spirit, people voluntarily coming, we cannot have the quality. That's what I will.
Well, I mean, yeah, it takes hard work, Prabhu, because if you want to really fan the voluntary spirit, then yeah, we should have that level of substance and purity, actually, because there are even non-Krishna conscious organizations, they are there which run purely by through volunteers. Actually, I know my own a distant niece of mine. She was like a very, very highly qualified person, very high pay job. Her husband also was very, very high pay job. Both of them left their jobs, and they are doing full time as a couple. They are doing full time voluntary service in another spiritual organization, which is in one sense, it has no philosophy at all. So I mean, it is not that people are able to attract volunteers. I mean, how do we do it? We have to figure that out, or at least in certain things, you have to get it done. And all said and done, it's not that it is the employee's thought process. It is the responsibility of the employee to protect his consciousness. The employer, when he has a choice of either employing a devotee or a non-devotee, he can choose a devotee. But it is the responsibility of the employee, the devotee employee, to know that, look, I am getting paid for a core For performing a core Krishna conscious activity, it is my responsibility to maintain my consciousness. And if I'm not able to maintain my consciousness, I might as well do a regular job and maybe contribute some money to the institution. That way I will do my help like that. That is his responsibility. That is why we are discussing. So, I mean, an employer who runs a temple or a temple president, he naturally has to think in that way only. You know, I will, if given an opportunity, given a choice, I would definitely want to choose a devotee because his consciousness would be better. But for the employee devotee, he has to think in terms of, I should be very careful not to perform this activity in business consciousness. And I know that the temple cannot afford to pay me the kind of money that I might be getting outside for a similar job. But still, it is my responsibility to protect my consciousness so that I don't render this very very pure core Krishna conscious activity in the mode of business. So that is why we are discussing this actually. Is that relevant, bro?
Yes, bro. Only because I see in outside organizations, hardly in all South Indian temples, if you see, hardly except for 1 to all are paid pujaris only. And except some we have, of course, in Maharashtra we have many temples with full-time brahmacharis. But otherwise in South India, if I want to preach and expand, then it takes time. But if I have put paid pujari and I start a center and then it runs. So yeah, of course it depends. What you said is employee's responsibility.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
is true. Yes,
Nee,
bro.
see,
That
whether
is
it
clear.
is
Yeah,
whether it is a Sri Vaishnava temple or
yeah.
whatever, but the point is
No, within
we do,
ISKCON also, all the South
yeah,
Indian ISKCON
yeah, the
temples.
point, yeah, the point is we don't have a choice, which is
Yeah,
true for most of us. You know, we may say, what choice do we have? We don't have a choice, but we have to understand at what cost we are choosing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
clear.
point. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Leela Manjari Mataji, you wanted to share something?
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
this I understood that core principle like Kirtan, Sharanam, giving Bhagavatam classes, like it's just not based on money. That I understood. But now
Can you speak closer to the mic, Mataji?
Yeah.
Your voice is not breaking, but the volume is low.
I understood this core principle of the devotional service should be pure, 100% selfless. One like Gopal's Garden is a project of ISKCON, Radha Gopinath Temple, Bhaktivedanta Hospital, and so many other projects are also there. Where actually devotees are encouraged to work in those institutes and they are paid.
Yeah.
There may be little difference of payment, or sometimes there be no difference of payment also. Whether the same devotee works outside or in these projects. So then that means if we are in Bhaktivedanta Hospital, if from tomorrow they announce there won't be any payment, maybe let me not speculate, but maybe many of us will not be able to continue.
Okay.
So then it means very clearly that we are working there for money. But then every time we
but it's not a core devotional activity, na Mataji?
It's not core.
It's not a core devotional activity. Yeah, it's definitely not. So we are not, I mean, treating patients or teaching students, you know, regular physics, chemistry, biology. It is not really, it's not really a core devotional activity. It's more peripheral. So that is fine. But if we are doing the more core activities in that mood, then it is a bigger problem.
But then why do we really actually, I'll use the word, preach to devotees around better to join Bhaktivedanta, better to join Gopal's Garden, better to join Mayapur project? Like, is it because like it is good for our spiritual life, or is it we need devotees more in those projects? Like
Well,
actually,
yeah, we do need.
seniors sorry,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
seniors also preach quite strongly here. Like, you know, new doctors come out, or like better to join Bhakti Vedanta. So whether is it our own, like uh, we are preaching them so that their Krishna consciousness is protected, or we are preaching them because mm, like we need more devotee doctors? Like what?
Like,
It's not only Bhakti Vedanta, it is like other projects also. So can I
well,
get little?
well, I mean, I don't know much, because one thing is, a holistic picture has to be given, especially when because I do see devotees, um, mm, uh, generally they come to spiritual societies for relief, uh, relief from all these kinds of material dealings and material this thing. So when they come, they want some relief. So but many times when devotees are in, devotee projects, or this kind of ISKCON type of projects, many times where they are seeking that shelter, they may get a thunderbolt from that shelter only, and they may start losing some faith in that shelter only. And this may happen, or they may start losing, they may start dealing in a very business, with a solid business mentality with the institution, which I mean, the more peripheral the activity is, it is still okay, because definitely you don't treating patients is definitely not a core devotional activity, but it can be done in a very nice devotional mood, as it is done in Bhaktivedanta Hospital. But even then, it is not a core devotional activity. But we are talking about more core devotional activities, like
Right.
like uh, Bhagavatam, or
Yes.
any other devotional scriptures, or Kirtan. So these are the kind of things that we are talking about, because our deity worship. So these are directly core. So like that. That's what I think.
Yes, I understood. So in one sense, if I'm working in Bhakti Vedanta for earning money, I'm not doing devotional service. I'm earning money using it in service of Krishna. That's why it's a devotional service. But in separate, like it's not an act of, because I'm going there to get money.
Well, that is true. So my point is, earning money is in itself not necessarily a non-devotional activity. So because the purpose for which we earn money is more important, actually.
More important.
So if the purpose for earning money is so that you can serve Vaishnavas, which I know in your case is a very strong purpose, or to maintain a Krishna conscious family, with that mode, if money is earned, it is not business. This is it is an act of devotion only. So
So the purpose of mood, that service, if a person can keep that mood intact, then that person can work anywhere.
yes, yes, yeah. So as long as he is not able to see Kirtan, अरे अभी इसने कितना पैसा दिया मुझे, 1000 रुपये दिया ना, तो इसको मैं आधा घंटा गाऊंगा, और 2000 दिया तो 1 घंटा. So मतलब, if he cannot have that kind of a see, if a doctor, if the patient does not pay fees, if the doctor chooses not to treat, it is okay. But Kirtan and Katha cannot happen like that. So I'm just trying to bring this distinction. So working in a hospital and performing professional katha or professional kirtan, these are two different things actually.
Right.
So
Mm.
is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, I understood. So it's like we are working in all the ISKCON projects also for money, but then in addition we do get good devotional atmosphere there.
Yeah, we do get very good devotional atmosphere. For that we may come. So as long as, see, I am not telling that so there could be a case where a person could be earning for that same portfolio, he may be earning 50,000 outside, he is taking only 30,000 within ISKCON, and he is perfectly okay. He is very clear, I have come here only for the association of devotees. Whatever they give, I will take. I will not bargain. And as long as it is good enough to maintain my this thing, I am okay. I am not here to earn. If one is able to maintain that consciousness and perform that service in that mood, then it is very good. The problem is not with taking payment. The problem is after taking payment, can we maintain our consciousnness?
Yes.
So which for most people is very difficult actually. So that's what he's discussing here.
Yes. Very clear. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So there are some questions in the chat box also. There is one comment here. So where he says, when rich people walk into our temples, we should see them as Atma and not ATM machines. Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting it. So we should see them as Atma and not ATM machines. Yeah. So then another question here. What is the fine line of money for livelihood and money for maintenance? More or less same thing, right? I don't know. Example, there are some senior Prabhupada disciples who conduct various courses and maintain themselves that way. Also, GV charges some fee for certain courses. Yeah. Abroad, pujaris are called from India and all need to be paid so that they can send money to family abroad. So how to understand this? Well, I can only tell my personal opinion on this based on what I have understood from, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings and hear what Jayadvaita Maharaj is mentioning. So, see, if it is a residential course, I think it is okay, because if you are going to well, what I am speaking may not be politically very much correct, but still I have to share my opinion on this, so I am just sharing that if you do it for a residential course, you will have to pay for the amenities that you use. For that, someone has to pay. Well, that much I can tell. But for online courses also, there are some you can say some, like I do raise some donation for the Zoom account, because that is needed. I cannot so like that, if it is bare minimum just for what you want to use, and not as, it's not like you are charging. So it's not like who all paid the money, have they paid, it's not like you're charging for the course. But of course I do see they may charge for the course. So that is up to the individual, up to the institutional choice. But we are just discussing what is the core shastric understanding on this. The opinion of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the opinion of His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj also we are discussing. So that I can tell how it is applied and for what is the rationale behind different institutions or people doing it. That's up to them. They may have a very pure consciousness in doing that. We have to give them that benefit of doubt. We have to bother about our own consciousness. That much That much I can tell. So I cannot comment more on this. So okay, there is one more comment. Sometimes devotees collect Lakshmi for Janmashtami, etc. for the institution only, but sometimes devotees may end up doing this seva in a competitive mood. They just do it to bring their names in the eyes of the heads of the institution, even though ultimately they may be helping the donors in gaining devotional spiritual credits. But if the devotees do not perform this service in the mood of seva, as you said, this way sometimes devotees cheat themselves also. This is also one form of deceit. This can be potentially, yeah, definitely a kind of deceit. So so even though we may be collecting money for the institution, if we can take some responsibility for their Krishna consciousness on behalf of the institution, so then that would be very good. So that way, you know, you're giving them something tangible. While you have to collect the money for the institution has to run like that. Okay, there is Krishna Rupa Mata. You wanted to share something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I would just like to add about the GEV actually charging, some Lakshmi for the ongoing courses that are there. Residential, of course, because we occupy space and we have prasadam, that's pretty okay. But the online thing, like I remember during the lockdown, I did many courses actually with the GEV. And I felt that, what they had done is very wonderful. They said that pay as you like. So it was not a forceful thing coming from GEV. You want to pay, you pay. You don't want to pay, still you will be actually added into that particular group. Like, for example, when I entered Harinam Chintamani, the class, I did not pay initially. I was just added. But then later on, we paid actually. So, and then later on, after, I've been in touch with His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So I was just actually speaking to him. He says that getting a lot of graphic works and a lot of background works and the, certain graphics devotees don't know. So for that graphic designer, we have to hire from outside and then we can do that graphic design. Then who will, pay for that? So then, obviously I'm a graphic designer myself. So then I took up that particular seva of doing graphic designing and making PPTs for him. Then I could understand that, okay, they are actually charging for the background actually work. So for example, somebody is coming in front and giving a class, but we don't know what is happening completely in the background. There is so much efforts is going on in the background. Plus, if you see GV, I've visited GV. So GV is right in one corner of, that particular village. So there are many challenges also devotees are having.
I agree, Mataji. I agree with your point. That is why I said, we can think about ourselves. We cannot, we are not, this is not a forum where we are in one sense like going to justify why particular organizations are charging or not charging. I mean, we are just discussing principles. Like we say that in all likelihood, probably at least the devotees who are giving those courses are probably not aware of who has paid or who has not paid. So they probably don't get into that detail so that they can purely speak Krishna Katha. So that is one thing. And ultimately, institutions have to run. The leadership takes a call as to, what are the means through which they will raise their money. So, I mean, as long as we are not in that position to take such calls, we just follow. So, definitely this is not the forum where we are going to justify why particular institutions are, they must have some very genuine reasons for doing that. So we accept that, but we are talking about from a personal point of view, how do we do it? That's what we are discussing actually. So from a personal point of view, will I do it? Should I do it? That's what here. If we are not in a position in the institution where we can take such calls, then we might as well give them the benefit of doubt that there must be some some genuine reasons for that.
Also, I feel that, for example, I pay for a particular course and then I attend that course. I'll be more serious actually for that particular course
Well,
rather than.
as long as the institution is charging some reasonable amount purely for that purpose, then it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So only so that as Prabhupada said, if you give it free of cost, they will not take it seriously. If it is for purely for that purpose, then I think it's okay.
Like when we are conducting DYS, we just charge like 100 rupees, per person for 7 days. So I think that's a pretty nominal charge that we charge, so that they at least.
Yeah, I mean 100 rupees. I'm sure it must be a spacious room, and you may be giving some prasadam also.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean it will cost more than 100 rupees actually. So that's yeah. Okay, Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we will now continue our discussion. So the next topic that he's going to talk about is Kirtan. So we will pause again after we complete this topic, so that at least something substantial we have covered for the day. So talking about Kirtan, Maharaj says, we are advised not to hear from professional bhajan singers. They are singing for money, not for the pleasure of the Lord. It's their profession, their way of livelihood, and they cultivate a beautiful voice for public gratification. This is another problem. Instead of pleasing Krishna, then because it's our source of livelihood, then we will try to develop a beautiful voice. Instead of for pleasing Krishna, we will start doing it for the pleasure of the audience. Or in today's day and age, you can see like how many subscribers, how many viewership, what should I do to increase the viewership? It more or less becomes something like that, maybe 2-minute videos, 5-minute videos, just so that more and more people can view, more people can subscribe to my channel, things like that. Yeah, it becomes so. We start, instead of, rather than giving the that which is supposed to be given, we start giving what the public needs or what the public wants rather than what they need actually. So one can say these people are Vaishnavas, but that's not our standard of a Vaishnava. Someone who does not really follow the principles of devotional service or practice, but is a great singer. So that is not our understanding of a Vaishnava. Some of the most popular bhajan singers are based in Bombay, and we know about them quite well. Of course, he's not talking about ISKCON singers. He's talking about other bhajan singers. So we know that in their private life, they are drinkers, womanizers, and so on. They don't follow the 4 regulative principles, and ISKCON devotee is expected to follow. So we are advised, Avaishnava Mukodgiranam Putam Harikatamritam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpochishta Payoyata, as Sanatana Goswami says. Do not hear from a person who is not a Vaishnava. So, or whether it may be bhajan or it may be Bhagavatam. Apart from that, devotees who listen to professional bhajan singers often start to sound like professional bhajan singers themselves. They will also start singing like that only. Instead of immersing themselves in the transcendental sound vibration sung by the pure devotee of the Lord, they immerse themselves in the beautiful music sung by the professional bhajan singers. So, but although fancy tricks with tunes and notes may turn the public on, that's not pleases Krishna. So public may get really very excited. Wow, kya alap hai, or whatever. But Krishna will not be very pleased. So he quotes, there is a passage in Jayavadharma. Interestingly, he's quoting Jayavadharma, but it's a different chapter, about a spiritual aspirant who has had training in classical music. I think his name is Kalidas. And later he gets initiated in Vaishnav Parampara also. So he is a professional musician. And he comes in the association of devotees, and he tries to sing Hare Krishna Mahamantra in a very professional way. And eventually in their association, he gets transformed also. It comes in the early chapters of Jayavadharma, I remember. Maybe 3rd, 4th chapter, like that. When he has been in the association of devotees for a while, he takes the opportunity to sing Kirtan in beautiful classical style. All the devotees get turned off right away. Right? Because these were all devotees in the Godrum Dweep. And they were like very, very exalted devotees. So as soon as he would start singing, they could clearly understand that this was not, in one sense, what is appropriate. This is not how genuine Krishna Kirtan is supposed to happen. So they immediately get turned off. So they think, what is this? Here is a guy with a professional background and technical training, but he does not have bhava. He does not reflect genuine devotion. Like that they are thinking. His music reflects his cultivation of professional technique. And we see that a lot, unfortunately, even within ISKCON, Maharaj is telling. We see that a lot, even within ISKCON, unfortunately. Kirtan lacking devotion, but overflowing with technique. I was in some Kirtan and the Mridanga player was all beats. Very fancy beats. If there was a moment of space, it had to be filled with alankaras or decorative sound vibrations, various types of beats, banging the Mridanga with various fancy beats. There was not enough space Kirtan for all the beats one can play. So the player had to fill in as many as possible. And I noted the difference between the kind of Mridanga playing, that kind of Mridanga playing, and the expert playing of Srila Prabhupada's god brother, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. So this is Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, who was there during Prabhupada's sannyas ceremony also. He was the one who was chanting, singing the Mahamantra while the Vedic hymns were being chanted during the sacrifice. So he was that one. He was a very close friend of Srila Prabhupada, very, very exalted Vaishnava. Prabhupada had great respect and affection for Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. He was a very expert Mridanga player also. So Maharaj, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj is telling that there was a difference when Babaji Maharaj used to play expertly and the others. He says when Babaji Maharaj wanted to do something extra, he could do it. But for most of the Kirtan, it would be boom, 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 simple, 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 because the thing he wanted to hear was the holy name. Once in a while, he may do it when the holy name is not so prominent. But for most of the time, it used to be very, very simple beats and not some fancy beats which would unnecessarily distract people from hearing the holy name. The Mridanga was only to give a little shape or support to the holy name, not for a Mridanga playing exhibition. And he gives another example of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of leaving this world, wanted to hear Sri Rupa Manjari Pada sung by someone other than a big Kirtaniya who was present. So actually when he wanted to hear, they told one brahmachari who was like a very sweet singer. Later he became a sannyasi also. But at that stage, there were many more advanced devotees than him. Later he became a very, very advanced Vaishnava, a very well-renowned sannyasi, known for his purity, not just for his kirtan singing actually. So he became but at that point of time, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur wanted to set an example. So when he wanted, when he was right on his deathbed, when he wanted to hear his favorite, one of his favorite bhajan, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, at that point of time, they asked this brahmachari to sing. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur literally stopped him. He said, "Can I please hear from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj?" He said, "Sridhar Maharaj is there. Let him sing," he told. So he was asking, "Is Sridhar Maharaj there? Let him sing. I want." Actually, Sridhar Maharaj, so he writes actually, Sridhar Maharaj was not known as a silver-voiced Kirtaniya, but the technique wasn't what was wanted. It was the feeling. So he was a very, very advanced devotee. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was very, very close to Prabhupada. Amongst all his god brothers, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was the closest god brother of Srila Prabhupada. Very exalted soul. So he was called by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur himself to sing Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. Once in Mayapur, another story Maharaj gives. The devotees and the managers in 1976 or 77 arranged a Kirtan Mela. Kirtan Mela means they arranged a Kirtan competition. The idea was to attract more people to Mayapur from surrounding areas, because if there was a Kirtan competition and the best Kirtaniyas from Bengal would come there to perform, then naturally, when the word spreads, then many people will come to Mayapur to watch. There were Kirtan groups that roam around and do Kirtans at weddings, birthdays and festivals and then get paid something. So at this Mela, various Kirtan groups were invited to come. They were all like paid Kirtan groups. They would perform and be judged by the panel of judges on their mridanga playing, their dancing and their dress. They would be judged based on that. These guys could play kartals with their hands behind their backs, right? They could play mridanga with their elbows, literally. They were fantastic. Prabhupada was in the Lotus building in his quarters. At that time, he was feeling indisposed. His health was deteriorating. He was not feeling well. This was 1976-77, towards the last year of Srila Prabhupada's manifest presence. So he was in the long Lotus building in his quarters and he could hear these various professional Kirtaniyas playing and singing. So he sent word down from the Lotus building, "Turn off the amplifiers," he told. Turn off the amplifiers. Why? Maharaj says Prabhupada was not interested in hearing them at all. He said, "They are simply singing for money. Our Kirtan is different. What Krishna wants is your feeling. Bhavagrahi Janardana. What the Lord accepts is the feeling of the devotee." So he says. And then he gives another example. After Hiranyakashipu was killed, the demigods offered prayers to pacify the Lord, but still the Lord was roaring in fury. Then Brahma pushed Prahlad Maharaj forward saying, "You speak something." Then Prahlad Maharaj thought, all the demigods have offered their prayers in beautiful Sanskrit. Again, so many alankaras, and they are all big demigods. So what is that verse? Brahmadaya suragana munayota siddha satvaika tanagatayo vachasam pravahaihi naraditum purugunair adunapi pipru kim toshtum arhati same hari rugrajate. So he says, my God, these demigods, Brahmadaya Suragana, Brahmas and all these great demigods, Munaya, the great sages, Ata Siddha, people from the Siddha Loka, perfected people, Satvaika Tanagatayo, and they are all filled with Sattva-guna. There is very little Rajas or Tamas. Mostly it is Sattva-guna only. Vachasam pravahaihi. and their and their words are like rivers of nectar flowing, with great perfect meter, perfect Sanskrit, perfect alankaras and everything. Naraditum purugunaihi, even though it is purugunaihi, it is filled with so many wonderful qualities. Naraditum adhunapi pipruhu, it was not possible to please Krishna. Kim toshtum arhati same harirugra jate, how is it possible for me, born in a demoniac family with no sattva guna, how can I offer prayers and hope to please Krishna? Then he says, I can. Why? Manye danabhijana rupa tapashrutaujas teja prabhava bala paurusha buddhi yoga नाराधनाय हि भवन्ति परस्य पुंसो भक्त्या तुतोष भगवान गजयूतपाय. He says, actually, manye dana jana abhirupa tapa shruta ojas teja prabhava bala paurusha buddhi yoga, all these various qualities which are generally sattva guni, he says naradhanaya hi bhavanti parasya pumso. Actually, Krishna is not pleased with any of these qualities which are born out of material sattva guna. Bhaktya tutosha bhagavan, Krishna is actually pleased by bhakti only and not by any of these kinds of qualities which are born out of material sattva guna. So Prahlad Maharaj writes, Devdutt Maharaj writes, Prahlad Maharaj thinks, what will I say? When all these demigods have failed to satisfy the Lord, what can I do? Then Prahlad thought, but I can offer my feelings. That's the thing. Not how great a singer you are, but what kind of feelings you have for Krishna. That is the most important thing. Okay, so this is about Kirtan. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, but still I will pause to see if there are any quick discussion points on this topic. Yes, Madhavi Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhuji.
Dandavat Mataji.
Prabhuji, after hearing all this, like earlier also many times I have heard this, that, it is the devotion which attracts the Krishna more, and it's true also, and not the, musical notes or something like that, the musical expertise in general.
Yeah.
But like suppose somebody is a devotee or trying to be a sadhaka, but also has some of the musical background, like I'm talking for my own self, like I have like done my classical music for almost 7 to 8 years, and given some exams and all also. But and with that, I whatever singing bhajans or kirtan I used to do, but later on I started feeling that how people do kirtans, and they use different, like harmonium. Basically, I was not per se I had learned harmonium as such. I was a singer basically, and sometimes tanpura or like that. But then I started feeling that no, I should invest some time. If Krishna has given me a voice and Krishna has given me some expertise, I should use it for his service, and that way I can do better kirtan. So is this the right attitude, or it is not required? Like,
oh yeah, definitely, Mataji. Because if we have, we would definitely want to cook very nicely for Krishna, right?
Yeah.
Nice recipes, that would that are palatable. Similarly, music is also like that only. The various ragas are like various kinds of ingredients that one may use in one's recipe preparation. So one can definitely use, just like bhoga in the form of food or bhoga in the form of food is prepared with in a very, very expert way for the pleasure of Krishna. Similarly, bhoga in the form of kirtan and bhajans can also be very expertly presented for Krishna's pleasure. But again, as it is mentioned, always the problem of ideally it should not distract the audience from focusing on the holy name. Rather, it should aid the devotees to focus on the holy name. That is one thing. And also we should be aware that and of course we cannot, the main thing that we are discussing here is it should not become a profession. That's another important, that is the focus of this discussion, of course. And of course, in what mode kirtan should be done, what mode lecture should be given, and all those things are there, but definitely not for public gratification, but for the pleasure of Krishna and one's own purification. That is definitely there. But here the prime focus is, it cannot become your profession. We cannot maintain our livelihood in this way, because in doing that there is a very big chance that of doing these things in the mood of business. That is the prime thing that we are discussing here.
Yeah, so in both ways, like we should protect the consciousness of the audience as well as of the singer. Like it should not be sung in the mood that now because I'm using some musical expertise, I will be better than others, or it should be only purely for pleasing Krishna, whatever that. Okay, he has given expertise, so I will use it, and even if in future some opportunity comes or somebody may show some monetary benefits for the expertise one has, or any devotee has for that matter, it should be kept only for pleasing Krishna and not for earning, as far as well, till the time Krishna is or even if till Krishna is not providing you, or by Krishna's arrangement you are not that well off, still
so that way I would say you teach professional classical music and earn, and do kirtan for free as a service. That's what here, that is the essence. If I have to summarize this whole section in one sentence, it is that if you have ability to sing, if you are professionally trained, then use it for teaching classical music, earn your livelihood, and sing kirtans or bhajans in the temple as a service.
Right.
Yeah, that is the essence, the whole thing. And if you have additional free time, you can teach devotees free of cost. You can teach them how to
after hearing so much now, I started feeling that it is not the expertise which is required, and one should not waste time in getting some additional time, because it will again involve time involvement, right?
That's what Prabhupada also said. What you have, utilize it in Krishna's service. Don't spend time learning new things. Actually, this is coming. Good you brought out this point. I think this is Kirtan we completed, right? What is the next theme? Let me check. I think Jayadvaita Maharaj only writes. Yeah, good you brought out, because the very next topic is expertise as a part of devotion. So what is the role of expertise? So we are going to read that. This will address your point, Mataji. This theme will address your point actually.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishnam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Prabhu, I have one doubt. Especially if I face this difficulty because I have some knowledge of music.
Prabhu, your voice is breaking. I think your internet signal is poor, Prabhu. Your voice is breaking. We are not able to hear you.
Okay.
I can see that you are speaking, but your voice is breaking in between. Okay, I think, Prabhuji, if possible, you can either fix your, if you can move to a place where your signal is better, that is good. If not, you can type it on the chat box and we will read it and we will discuss it if it is okay. So there is a question in the chat box, another question: can someone gradually elevate from being a professional singer or a reciter to the mode of devotion? Yeah, definitely. Why not? Why not? We all have expertise in something or other, and at some point we will definitely utilize it in Krishna's service. So and I'm sure many of us are already doing it. You know, many Matajis may be very expert cooks and they are cooking for the pleasure of Krishna without taking any remuneration. Like that, you know, there are so many things, you know, you have expertise in, and you are providing it for the service of devotees and Krishna. That's probably already happening. So yeah. Okay. So if there are no further discussion points, then we will move on to the next theme that His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj discusses, which is expertise as a part of devotion. Is it needed? Is it not needed? Should we cultivate it? Should we not cultivate? Should we become experts or not? What does Maharaj is of course going to quote Prabhupada only. Maharaj was the personal editor of, I think the longest serving personal, the editor of all of Srila Prabhupada's books. So yeah, let's see what Maharaj has to say. Now, it's not that we have to be a culture of incompetence. It's not that, you know, all good singers who are professionally trained should never sing. It's not like that. There is a question before we move on to that. Knowledge of music. There is a question in the chat box, which is: knowledge of music sometimes becomes an obstacle when a devotee does kirtan with lot of aberrations, but with lot of devotion. How to overcome this obstacle? So this is the hearer or the participant is knowledgeable in music, and the one who is leading the music, it is musically pathetic, but devotionally very wonderful. So the participant is feeling the problem that I cannot tolerate such, you know, besur music, you know. It may be filled with bhava, but it is, you know, no sur, no tal, and nothing, you know, it's like that. So how do I overcome that? I mean, at least, I mean, in order to overcome that, we have to understand that ultimately it is devotion that matters. So that even though immediately to, you know, just like, you know, if we don't like Karela, we can eat it because it is offered to Krishna, but it's not that immediately we will start liking that Karela also. So if that is the question of taste, and similarly, we may be allergic to some smells, right? So it's not that, even though if that smell is offered to Krishna as a gandha, that does not mean that immediately we will start liking that smell. That is also not possible. So similarly for ears also, it is like that. If you are professionally trained and if you are trained to appreciate very soothing, melodious, with proper sur and tal, that kind of music, then when it is not there, then we will, that appreciation may not be there, but we should think that, oh, ultimately Krishna accepts devotion. So even though I may not like this music, at least I should participate, considering that Krishna will accept the devotion of the singer. So that kind of an understanding will not immediately make that bhajan very relishable. That for that, you know, considerable amount of anartha nivritti would happen. Like for example, in Madhurya Kadambini, when Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur discusses about the stage of ruchi. So ruchi, he says, ruchi means there is a difference between ruchi and asakti. Ruchi and asakti both mean attachment. So or taste. Ruchi means taste for the limbs of devotional service. And Asakti means taste for serving Krishna. Even though at the stage of Ruchi also there is taste for serving Krishna, but the predominant taste is coming from the limb of devotional service. It could be Kirtan, it could be Katha, whatever it may be. And he says there are two types of taste or Ruchi. He says reliable Ruchi and unreliable Ruchi. So reliable Ruchi is irrespective of the material quality of that Kirtan or Katha, whether that Katha is spoken in a monotonous tone or with lot of beautiful voice modulation, whether it is spoken in very ungrammatical language, or it is spoken with the best language, with lot of similes, alliterations and metaphors and all such kinds of figures of speech, very, very poetic and beautiful. These are all said and done. These are all like material ingredients of that particular these are all material ingredients only in one sense. So one may be able to appreciate when these material ingredients are there, but when they are not there, one will not be able to relish Katha or Kirtan so much. He says this is unreliable Ruchi. This is not really Ruchi. This is taste that is experienced at the stage of Anartha Nivritti. But just by knowing it, we cannot transcend it. Just by knowing that this is a symptom of Anishtita Bhajan, unsteady devotional service, that does not mean that knowledge in itself will not give us the ability to transcend that stage. To transcend that stage is a whole different thing actually. So while we understand, okay, this is my situation, I understand it, I know that this is not very good, but at the same time, just by knowing that does not mean that immediately you will hear that very, very devotional but absolutely non-musical presentation as nectar flowing to our ears. That will happen only when we reach the stage of Ruchi. But if we are at Anartha Nivritti, it will sound like cacophony only to us, but it's okay. Still, we can think that, okay, but Krishna is accepting the mood. With that, we try to participate in the Kirtan. So how do we overcome? So the basic question is how to overcome this obstacle. To overcome this obstacle, we have to hear about what pleases Krishna. Like we just discussed Prahlad Maharaj's prayer, Bhaktya Tutosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya. Krishna is pleased only by bhakti, and the proof is Gajendra, he says. So, but having said that, complete Anartha Nivritti will only help us to completely overcome this obstacle. So each one of us, prior to coming to Krishna consciousness, may have had expertise in something or other. So when someone is not doing it with so much expertise, we get annoyed. I think it's a problem with all of us. If you are a really good cook, and if someone has made lousy prasadam, even though it may be offered to Krishna, it's difficult. We cannot eat it. Or if you are a really good, classically trained singer, then if someone is singing bass or kirtan, it's very, very difficult to tolerate. But still, we think that, okay, Krishna will accept it. So we let it go like that. Is that okay, Prabhu? Is that relevant? You can type on your chat box and let me know. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj says that now it's not that we have to be a culture of incompetence. Like whoever is a very good singer should not be singing. Whoever is a very good cook should not be cooking. Why? Because their consciousness will be corrupt. Whoever is a good Bhagavatam speaker should not speak Bhagavatam. It's not like that. So when Prabhupada says, Jayadit Maharaj says, when Achyutananda Prabhu compiled ISKCON's first songbook, Srila Prabhupada appreciatively wrote in a foreword, he has learned how to sing in Bengali and play mridanga like an expert professional. So Prabhupada very appreciatively wrote in the foreword. But on the other hand, if externally someone is a great singer or a great speaker or a great pujari or a great yagya performer or whatever, but internally the heart is all trash, then we have a problem. The one Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking about in this verse, it's a deceit problem, he says. Right? See, it's not that if our heart is filled with lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, and pride, we should not sing kirtan. But the problem comes when we identify our spiritual progress based on how good we sing or how good we give a class. That is where the problem comes. That's what he is talking. That's it. That's deceit. Raghunath Das Goswami balances his verse by saying, on the one side, to give up all this affectation, this urinary interest you have, and on the other side, develop your love for Radha and Krishna. So give up this kind of attachment to these things, and on the other side, develop love for Radha and Krishna. That's the real business of life. Now he gives the example which Madhavi Gopi Mataji asked. In the early days of Jadurani's painting, at one point, she was applying techniques from the great masters and trying to become really professional. She was not trying to become as good as Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a, historically very great artist. But because all the great masters studied anatomy carefully, she painted a very muscular Narada Muni. This is what she learned, as what is the modern understanding of a handsome person, which is what Narada Muni was. He was very handsome. So which means very muscular and well built. So she painted Narada Muni like that because that's how she had learned from the professional painters, in the paintings of Rembrandt and others. That's how they portrayed very, very handsome people. And Prabhupada said, if you want to go down this path, I will pray to Krishna to save you. Very heavy statement. Just looking at the painting, Prabhupada made this statement. If you want to go down this path, like rather than hearing from the spiritual master as to how to paint, if you want to go to these professional people and learn painting and paint as they are telling, according to their understanding of who is a handsome person and things like that, Prabhupada says, I will pray to Krishna to save you. It's a very heavy statement. So he says, save her from what? From becoming like a professional artist. Srila Prabhupada sometimes detected a problem with devotees who had learned some Sanskrit. This is another problem. A devotee may have wanted to serve by editing Sanskrit, so he decides to go to university and take an introductory Sanskrit course. Now he knows a little Sanskrit, but Prabhupada said, as soon as he knows a little Sanskrit, he thinks he is better than Guru Maharaj. This is the problem. So you absorb the mundane mentality that these people have. Many times you see that people who have learned Sanskrit, I have heard these are devotees who say that Prabhu, reading English translations is all right, but unless you can read the original commentary in Sanskrit, you can never really appreciate what it is. You may be able to, you may read the translation. That's okay. But you cannot really understand the real import unless you know the language. See, they are not completely wrong. But when it comes to devotional literatures, what about the consciousness of that person who is translating that work? He may be a very, very exalted soul, like His Holiness Bhanuswami Maharaj, right? Very exalted soul. So what is translated, we may not be able to maybe appreciate the very, very subtle nuances of some verses and something like that. But the essential philosophy, the essential mood that the literature is trying to convey, that the devotional author is trying to convey, that will definitely be transferred through the exalted devotee who is doing the translation work. So many times you see people, Prabhu, these translations are all right, but unless you know how to read Sanskrit, you will never be able to understand it properly. So there is an element of truth to it, but many times this actually, then this means this person who has been very new to Krishna consciousness but knows Sanskrit upside down is definitely can understand what exactly the acharyas are trying to convey, more than a very exalted devotee who has been practicing for decades but does not know the Sanskrit language. So this is not the right understanding. This is not our understanding. So you know what is conveyed through words. It's not just words. It is the impact. It's called the dhvani. You know, dhvani does not just mean the sound. Dhvani means the impact that sound is going to create in our consciousness and heart. So these words carry the dhvani. A translator can translate words, but he cannot translate the dhvani unless he has that qualification, devotional qualification. So therefore, here Maharaj says, you start to become a rationalist and you start to think that you are hot stuff because you know the rules of Sandhi, and all these incompetent ISKCON brahmacharis are chanting without the correct pronunciation. They are not even pronouncing it right. And then you think you can correct your own guru. You become puffed up and then you are finished. In any category, whether it is academics, art, music, business, or anything, when people start to think that they are God's gift to the Vaishnava community, then deceit will arise. If you think, I have been specially sent as God's gift to the Vaishnava community, then it is deceit. So professional training can be a pitfall. There are valuable things we can learn. On the other hand, when you pick up the head, you get the tail also. So you have to be very careful. See, Maharaj is telling, look, professional training is not completely bad. There are good aspects of it also. But you can't just have the head and not the tail. He says, if you get the head, along with the head, you have to bear with the tail also. The tail is all these other value systems and ideologies that will come with that. Okay, so you know, you have an additional reason to judge devotees actually. Academically, if a product is up to a certain standard, it's good, no matter what rubbish that actual content is. That is why Prabhupada wrote, Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abaddhavatyapi Namanyanantasya Eshonkitanyat Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadava. A famous verse, famous purport by Prabhupada, where he talks about his own writing. He says that my writing is not very professional, you know, I'm not like professionally trained, but still the subject matter can transform. That is the most important thing. It is the subject matter is glorification of Krishna. So when that is there, thoroughly honest people will accept it, appreciate it, and relish it. But if something is not up to the standard, then it is rubbish, no matter how exalted it is. This is how academics see it. Academics with this point of view are fools, because their emphasis is on what does not matter, and they are missing the point. They'll say, if you have done this research, then if there is some originality that you can present, that you can bring to the table, then it's okay. But if there is no originality, if you are just presenting what the acharyas have to say, then there is, you know, it is, you know, it cannot be appreciated according to them. Crying out that there is a fire, and you are analyzing the grammar of the sentence. He says this is like that. The academic approach is like that. Someone is trying, oh, there is fire, and then you are telling, is it grammatically right sentence? Like that. Prabhupada wrote in regard to his translations and commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam that somehow he had to get his message across in a foreign language, although there would be so many discrepancies. And Prabhupada and Krishna did not allow those discrepancies also, because very quickly he sent many qualified disciples whose mother tongue was English, and they were chased to Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So, you know, Krishna, helped Prabhupada in that way also. Maharaj himself being one of them. He said that if there is fire in the house, then the residents will somehow or other make it known to the neighbors, even if they don't speak the same language. Of course, you have to know your level of capability and also be humble. You know, we have to know what is our capacity to convey it, and we have to be humble like that. If you approach a big Sanskrit professor, it does not really pay to come off like you are the world's greatest Sanskritist. Therefore, it is advised that one be humble, but at the same time clear about one's principles. Academics who are honest will appreciate that you have got something. So you don't have to be academically you don't have to try to do that. But if you are sincere and humble, then any sincere academic person will appreciate what you have to say. He will be able to see that substance like that. So this is about expertise and as a part of devotion. So he's presenting mainly based on Srila Prabhupada's own personal teachings and conduct. Okay, we still have about 3 minutes time. So if there are any quick discussion points, comments, you can please share. We can have a discussion. Anything anyone would like to add, share, or ask, you can please raise your hands. Okay, so if there is nothing, then I think we will pause here. I don't want to start a new section. We will try to do it next week. So for now, we will pause here. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and your very enthusiastic participation. Many nice points different devotees shared. This is actually what is the real essence of these discussions. This is primarily a discussion forum where devotees can share their thoughts, their experiences, their questions, so that we can churn out some practical application things. So I personally learn a lot through these kind of sessions, many different things. So I personally would like to express my gratitude that you have been coming for more than a year. We have been doing this for more than a year, almost like 13-14 months have gone since we started this Manas Siksha discussion, but still you are very sincerely attending and participating and contributing to this whole discussion, and your contribution is very valuable. So thank you all very much. We will end here and continue this discussion next Tuesday. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Srila Jayadvait Swami Maharaj ki jai, Shri Manas Siksha ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.